Welcome to the Love Your Inner Athlete podcast, your go-to source for all things mental fitness in sports. Whether you're an athlete, coach, or parent, you will learn as you join us to dive into inspiring conversations with those who have worked to develop their mental fitness. You will hear from people who have put in the work as either an athlete, coach, or a parent. In each episode, we bring you discussions and expert insights on developing resilience, focus, and mindset. Discover the concepts of mental fitness and learn how to use it to create consistent, durable confidence in both sports and life. I'm your host, Hans Schulstad. Let's get started. Welcome to the Inner Athlete podcast. Today, we're happy to be joined by a long-time friend and a long-term relationship with Christian Horn, who's an assistant coach with the Utah Grizzlies. I first met Christian when he played hockey for Benilde St. Margaret's back in 2012, right? Yep. Your championship year.
Mm-hmm.
You just played a small role in that, though, if I remember correctly.
Just a small.
Didn't score any big goals or anything like that.
Wasn't my style.
Yeah, it wasn't your style. We're talking with him today about hockey and all the things that he has learned about mental fitness, how to apply it, and how he applies it to his coaching and his playing. He played a few games, played a few pro games, played some college hockey. While he's playing college hockey, learned the importance of eating breakfast, and has found his way to figuring out what he wants to do, which is to coach hockey. So welcome, Christian.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Quite the intro.
And yeah, well, you're someone that I love to give a hard time to. And that's usually a good sign of a relationship, right? That you can tease each other back and forth and kind of chirp each other back and forth. So, we first met when you were at Benilde. And for people who don't know the story, explain to the listeners and the watchers, like, what the scenario was and why your coaches brought me in to work with your team.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was 2012. It was the Jack Jablonski incident where Jack got injured or paralyzed from the neck down. And after that had happened, obviously a bunch of 15, 16, few 17-year-olds are in a fragile place when they see that happen to a teammate and a friend. Especially a couple of them were lifelong friends of Jack's. And you could just tell it wasn't helping us out mentally. A lot of guys were kind of walking around just in a daze. I think the next 3 games we lost collectively like 22-4 or 5. It wasn't good. We were playing good teams. They were big games. Our mind just wasn't in it. We didn't know if it was okay to be on the ice. We didn't know if it was right. We didn't feel comfortable being on the ice. It was definitely a thing of like, what if this happens again? And then it was also like, how are we supposed to get up for a game right now when a teammate's in the hospital and we don't know if he's going to be able to walk again either? And there's a lot of things that were just, again, going through the high school boy's mind. We weren't handling it well. And our coach, Ken Pauley, definitely noticed that. And, that being said, when you came to visit us and you gave us our presentation, I think one of the things that really stood out and always stood out to me was you asked us right away, like, are you going against Jack by playing hockey? Are you hurting Jack's feelings by playing hockey? That question alone put a lot of perspective into my mind about how I should be approaching it and treating it. And it was more of like, let's not be worried about him being there and not playing with us. Like, let's celebrate the fact that Jack got to play hockey. Let's celebrate the fact that he's still a teammate of ours. He's still around. And let's recognize the fact that you're not hurting Jack by being out here. And it's not your fault to be out here either while he's going through that. And I think that was really big for our team. It was really big for a couple of guys who grew up with him and were best friends with him. It was really big for, just the older guys learning how to, I think the captains, like we learned how to operate our team with Pauly that year because of that meeting. And we were able to kind of, I would say, nip things in the butt after that when it would happen, or if something would happen, or you could see thoughts like that creeping into guys' mind and their game kind of went stale. It was a very effective way to remind each other and keep each other in check.
Do you feel like after that presentation, you had a better understanding of why you were getting into your heads?
Absolutely. Like I said, I use the word perspective. It gave us an understanding as to why the thoughts that we had came into our heads too, where your
Yeah.
mind, we talk about the fight or flight. There's all those other aspects of the brain that turn on, and you ask yourself these questions, and it's kind of funny, but you dig yourself your own hole, or you kind of go down your own rabbit hole of thoughts that aren't necessarily the right thoughts, or they're kind of like trickful thoughts that you think you're being honest with yourself or right, or it's the right idea. But like I said, a couple questions that you were just willing to ask right away completely changes the perspective or the thought that you're having behind whatever it may be that really is going on. And I think those kind of questions, and like I said, that perspective just changes, and it makes you think about it in a completely different way.
So do you feel like you walked out of that room feeling pretty heavy and left feeling lighter?
I left that meeting feeling lighter. I left that meeting feeling like I had a path and a process to go down that I knew we were already going down, but it was now a clearer path, and a path that we could see down that made sense in your head. A lot of those questions that you ask yourself when things like that happen to Jack, I think there are a lot of questions that you can't answer for yourself, and they don't make a lot of sense. And that's why you sit there and kind of ponder and get yourself into a daze. You might not having those answers frustrates you and makes you just a little bit more confused. But for me, it's a hard question to say, because we were heavy, because anytime we met as a team, those kind of meetings, we were crying in them, right? So was the meeting heavy? Yes. Like, were things like that heavy? Absolutely. But the lighter feeling of leaving that meeting was getting it out and understanding why you're still allowed to put your gear on. You're still allowed to enjoy the game. You're still allowed to not honor Jack for what he did and how he did it. It's just he's still a teammate. He's still right there. There's nothing that changes. And that, like I said, having that clarity in your head made me feel lighter, I think, as a captain, mainly, and a little bit more as a leader.
Do you think going into that meeting, you guys in general were skeptical of what was about to take place?
Yeah. I think we were a little skeptical just because of how I said earlier, how heavy everything was when we first met as a team, and we found out, it's the entire team and the coaching staff, and everybody's crying, and you just don't know what to do. You don't know how to handle it. And then even when you came, there's just like things you have to talk about that are in your head that you don't know if you want to talk about it. You're being vulnerable and you're going through it. But I think I would tell you, for me, about 15 minutes in, I started to see like the path and the picture, and it started to make sense. I think for like everybody, once we were about 30 minutes into that meeting, our entire team was locked in. They were focused and they were feeling I felt like they felt like they were already getting something out of it. So
Mm.
once that 25 to 30-minute like moment hit, I felt like everybody on our team, if you look back at that meeting, was so involved and so ready to do it, because they had already felt that path clear up, or find a connection, or find a meeting that they were really there for already, that made them really kind of dial
Well,
it in.
yeah, and I have a picture of that team in my office. It doesn't include the JV, but
So,
at least half of your teammates came to see me that year, and I'm sure you were aware of that. I'm sure you guys talked
uh,
about that. In fact, I actually remember there were a couple of kids from that team where I was worried one day that they were going to run into each other in the office waiting room because they were back to back. And I did everything I could to prevent that, to protect, their confidentiality. And I apologized, and they were like, "Oh, why are you apologizing? We were just talking in the locker room how we're going to be there back to back."
and I think to be honest with you, even in that situation, like, and I know there's a confidential thing that you have to carry, but for teammates to run into that and kind of be like, "Oh, you're here too." I think at that situation in time, that was good for them. That was
Yeah.
great for them to see that, and now they have someone to bounce their stuff off of too.
Well, and I remember Coach Pauly talking about, and he said in the past, because periodically when I'm in scenarios where I've had like tragedies happen, like on a team where there's been a death or traumatic injury, Coach Pauly has always said, and even the coaches from Wayzata have all said, even though you came in, we didn't talk about it enough. And we needed to talk about it, and not talking about it made it worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And talking about it, even like, I think it got to the point where Pauly wasn't afraid to talk about it mid game, to the point where it would wake us up. You know what I mean? If he
Well,
was,
what you didn't know is after you guys left, he and I sat in his coach's office for 2 hours that night and actually came up with a game plan about how to deal with it. And certainly throughout that year, Coach Russo and I would have periodic conversations about what was needed. And can you speak a little bit to the fact like Jack became a transcendent person? Like I think in that game that night, that championship game, where you guys beat Hill Murray, I think the only people that weren't cheering for you were Hill Murray fans. And
yeah,
that's unusual because, the state tournament, people like to cheer for the northern teams. So can you speak to like what it was like to be in the fishbowl like that?
I can tell you now, and I'll probably say it for the rest of my life. It was one of the crazier years of my life. After every practice, you had to go somewhere and give an interview. Just being the senior captain, me and Jake Horton and Grant Bessie and TJ Moore, we always had somewhere to go, someone to talk to. So we were on the news at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever it was. We were just doing little segments here and there. There was video cameras everywhere that year, all the time. HBO came, the guys from like the Winter Classic HBO who filmed that came in to film us for 3 weeks just to see how we were doing. They made a little docu-series about it, put it up on YouTube. And then you're walking around town and people are noticing you, either patting you on the back, rubbing your shoulder, saying like, good on you guys for working through what you're going through. Not only that, like once Jack was out of the hospital, you're walking around with him, hanging out with him. People are asking for photos. They want to introduce themselves. They want pictures with you guys. We were mini celebrities inside the state of Minnesota. And, it's kind of funny, but that's already heightened in the state of Minnesota with high school hockey. Like everybody knows who a lot of these kids are who are going to play college hockey, who are putting up a lot of points. Like there's a very big following in that state for hockey. And that's one reason we love it. That's why we grow up with it and like have that dream. But it was magnified once everything happened with Jack.
Was it you that told me that if you went to go get lunch somewhere with Jack, that they would comp you?
Yes, all the time. Literally, I probably had 3 or 4
Like
months
Subway, Chipotle?
anywhere. Noodles, Chipotle for sure, Jamba Juice right next to Benilde, like all those places that were kind of in our backyard that we would go to as students. They would see the jacket, they would see Jack himself do, and they'd be like, guys, this one's on us. Keep doing your thing.
So were you prepared for that as what were you, 17 or 18?
I believe I was 17, turning 18 that summer. No, absolutely not. I've never been through something like that. I didn't probably never go through something like that again. I'll probably never get that kind of publicity like that ever again, where I was needed 4 or 5 times a week. It was strange. It's weird to say that it had its perks, which is weird, like I said, because you're with Jack and he's now in a wheelchair and he's learning how to operate and start a new life. So that was strange. And it's also strange too that he was getting the notoriety because he got injured. At the end of the day, it was still strange when people wanted to come up to him and ask for a photo or get to know him. It's like, well, a lot of people don't know this, but what if you got to know the Jack Jablonski who was on his way and didn't get paralyzed? He would have been 6'2". He was a hell of a hockey player and probably would have played college. And if he had the drive, which I believe he did, to be able to play pro if it was really at the opportunity. You know what I mean? Like that path can be laid out for you in Minnesota. So becoming a mini celebrity for what happened to him, I think was definitely 17, 18-year-old kid. You're looking at it and you realize it's a little backwards. Yes, it's great that people are giving him the support and all of that. But one of the biggest things that we talked about, and I know you brought it up with Pauly, because Pauly threw it down our faces like all year, but it was like the support's good for him now, but in 3 years when it goes away, where are you guys going to be? And
Yeah.
that resonates
Yeah.
with us. We still see Jack in the summertime. I know he's out in LA. We still communicate and all that, but every time he comes home, like the captains and him are getting together. We're going, taking him out to dinner, going on the lake, making sure that
Yeah.
that relationship
Yeah.
stays. And I think that's something that's just stuck with us because that year was wild. It was crazy. I've never been through anything like it, and I don't think I will be again. The sheer fact that
Mhm.
it happened too put what felt like anywhere from 400 to 1,000 extra people in our arena.
Well, yeah. And, for me, I mean, I know Coach Russo and Coach Pauly in other ways, but it definitely cemented and strengthened our relationship at the time. And, with everybody that was involved with that, like there's a bond around that that's strong because
It's
we all
it's
went through something tough
it's
together.
it's interesting you say that and kind of bring that up now because I'm in the process of getting married, planning a wedding. I'm getting married in May, and my fiance hasn't met some of these guys or some of these guys that live in Chicago now and are busy and we're
Yeah.
planning, the wedding invites and who's going to come. And there's a couple names on that list from that team that she's never met. I don't know these guys. What do you mean? Like, why haven't we met them? When was the last time you talked to them? When was the last time like you
Yeah.
saw them here? And I had to kind of sit down and talk to her about that connection. I was like, listen, like I
Yeah.
don't expect you to understand it really, and that's why I'm saying it the way I am. But I've gone through something with these guys that will forever keep us connected, and
Mhm.
regardless of how long I go without seeing them because of where they live or being able to like, we made text or talk on the phone, but really being able to hang out with them and sit down and talk, they'll still be there. Regardless of whatever time that happens next, nothing will have changed because of what I went through with these guys. You're right. There's a different feel to it. That
Yep.
that that team that we went with, Jake Horton lives out in Long Island, New York now. I know when he comes home, like nothing's going to change the minute we see each other and have a beer. Bessie and TJ are back at home right now. When I go home in the summertime, like we're still hanging out and golfing and doing all that. Nothing's going to change, even if that time period has been 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. So let's jump forward a little bit. So we meet during that time, and then you get into college, you're playing college hockey, and you reach out to me to get some individual coaching. So my question for you, and I think I know the answer, but in retrospect, how do you think things would have been different if we had met like maybe when you were a Bantam?
Ooh, if I was a Bantam, am I allowed to like kind of say it?
Say what?
I would have been playing in the NHL.
Maybe.
It's just I feel like I would have been so much more prepared for what I went through, understanding why I was going through it, the right mindset of going through it, being able to calm myself down in situations, understanding how other people's brains work and their thought processes, how to kind of come out on top even in a
Well,
conversation.
so you may have well played in the NHL if we had met when you were a Bantam. But what I'm hearing you say, and you tell me if this is accurate, that the one-on-one coaching you got from me taught you how to manage your mind.
Absolutely. Yep. Manage my thoughts, manage my process. What's kind of great about that process as well is like it makes you become a better person and you realize it.
Yeah, well, and you're totally marrying over your head, and I'd like to think that I had something to do with that.
Oh, definitely marrying over my head. I know
Yes. Yeah.
it.
Well,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Let's just say when I first started coaching you, your screening process needed a lot of work. That
I'm
that
not
would be
surprised.
accurate.
No, yeah, absolutely. That
Yeah.
would definitely be accurate. I needed a lot of work for sure.
So when I first started coaching you, what is like one specific thing that you came looking for, and what was the end result that you got that surprised
I think there's two. So the first one would be I was looking for like my whole life, everybody had kind of told me you got what it takes, you have the ability, you got to do it. And I'm kind of sitting there going, well, what else am I supposed to do? I'm a little confused here. Like, where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to make this work? When do I get there? When does it come into fruition? And I was impatient. I think I was a little nervous about it. I'm not really understanding how to get there. And one of the questions you asked me was like, well, what happens to Christian if he doesn't make it? And I was like, whoa, yeah, that's a good question. So I definitely had to process that out in my head as to what kind of person I was going to be if I did and didn't make it. And I didn't want to be two different people. I wanted to be the same person regardless. So that made me realize even if things don't start going your way, it doesn't make you change who you are as a person, as a teammate, as a son, as a brother, whatever it may be. And I think that allowed me to play more pro hockey in my career than it did hinder me. Like I think because of that, I became a very good teammate and a very good locker room guy naturally. Then I also realized I think the biggest thing I was missing my whole life was understanding the process and enjoying the process and understanding like really what my job was. When I thought of myself as a hockey player, I wanted to play a game. I wanted a game. I wanted to score goals. I wanted to be the guy. I wanted people to look up to me. I wanted to do it in a respectful and good manner, but I wanted to be the best all the time, no matter what I was doing, even if it wasn't hockey. I just wanted to be the best. And I didn't know how to, I understood maybe going to a workout and shooting pucks. I didn't understand having a protein shake, being extremely consistent, getting good night's sleep, how many things were really interrupting my process and what I needed to be a good player and to be a great athlete. And I think it made me really love the process and really take away the thoughts of how do I get there? What do I do? How am I going to get there? It made me realize if I keep doing this every day, if I stay consistent, if I work at it and just show up, get that 1%, keep building on it and keep building on it, almost become addictive and get addicted to it. There's nothing you can regret at the end of the day. That is that kind of like you did your work, you'll be able to sleep at night if you make it or you don't. And I think it made me realize that and opened me up to understanding what my meaning was as a hockey player, what my process was as a hockey player, what I always identified as a hockey player, but I don't think I really knew what I was doing as a hockey player all the time. I just wanted to score goals. I love shooting pucks and I love scoring goals. So that's what I did. But when it came to a lot of the other things, I might not have been doing them as much or nearly as much as I needed to, which made me realize like I needed to be an overall athlete. I needed to be a complete athlete. And that also came with my mind the more I started working with you too. I realized the more I started seeing you, that I had more of an advantage over my teammates, sometimes my coaches in the locker room.
What's your favorite or your go-to tool for rebooting your brain?
Mine's for sure that if I like need it right away, it's closing my eyes and pressing my palms and switching.
Okay, so the hand movements. Yeah.
Yep. If I have my time for me and it's just been a long day and I'm stressed out, it's the EMDR app. It's seeing something that shows me how I'm supposed to be breathing.
Oh, you mean the Inner Balance app?
Yes.
The heart math stuff, the heart rate variability tree.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And like that, I realize you realize like a long day and having like some anxiety and just going through a lot of work, whatever it may be, your breath gets so short. You're not taking in nearly all the oxygen you can be and all of that. And then you get that in there and you see your breath pattern and what you're supposed to be doing. And I think for me, within 3 or 4 breaths, you feel 10 times better just through getting the amount of oxygen that you should be through each breath into your body.
Did you like the fact that that was like a measurable way to understand like what zone you were in?
Absolutely.
How many of them have you bought for me? Is it like 2, 3? You found it that effective that you've replaced every one that you've worn out. So you've worn out 3 of them.
Worn out 3 of them. I have one that stays in my backpack for traveling, so I never have to like lose one or like keep exchanging one and having one with me. There's one that stays on me at all times, and then there's one that's right next to my desk at home, and I know it's right there.
Okay. And so have you learned from that? Like many athletes tell me that what they learn when they use the Inner Balance app, that the most important thing is how do I get back to green instead of why am I in blue or red?
I think one thing of working with you, I've never looked at it as to why am I in blue or red. The breathing thing has been so big for me getting back to green's never been the biggest struggle. It's just, I like knowing it's like, oh, you're kind of at a red. You're kind of at a, you're at a red. You're at a yellow. I've been doing it for so long that I think I can kind of feel that now before I turn it on. I'll be able to tell like where I'm going to be at based off my breath or when I'm sitting down.
Is it something that you still use every day, even though you don't play?
I would say not every day now, but the long days and game days for sure.
As a player, did you use it every day?
Yeah. As a player, other than the days we had, days off and we were going and hanging out and you're coming home late and falling asleep easily because you had a couple liquids. Yeah, it was a little easier. But yes, I was someone who struggled with falling asleep my whole life too.
Another question. You've sent me a few of your friends to get coaching from me. In a few words, can you say why you've done that and what they've told you their experience has been?
Yeah, for me, I think I do it based off of you look at people who are kind of going through the same thing you are or something similar, and you have an outlet for them and you know that they're looking for an outlet. Because at the end of the day, all people are really looking for is help or maybe an answer or someone that has been through it that, they're not alone. And for me, referencing you is a no-brainer based off the relationship that we've created for each other and how much it's helped me. And that being said, too, the buddies that have met, and some have been players, some have been coaches, and some have been coaches of big programs. The players walk out of there and they're just like, my head just feels so much clearer. Like I realize how much of it was my own doing, but the simple questions that he asks you and makes you think about it in a different way completely opens up to you almost laughing at yourself and realizing how hard you are being on yourself and how simple of a change it is and how simple of a different mindset leads you to better and different thoughts.
What's one book that we've talked about or that I've suggested to you that you really love or that was really helpful?
Talent Code is hands down my favorite book. And you telling me to read that one, I would say Grit was good too. But Talent Code made me understand what I needed to do to be good and continue to play hockey, which is what I wanted to do. It really like, oh my God, there it is. Absolutely. And then one thing I loved about Grit was you realize after reading it how many people don't have it. If you can put that in your toolbox, you're already running over 85% of the people in the world.
So why do you think the concepts related to mental fitness are important for coaches and players? And kind of a follow-up to that is how do you see the mental fitness concepts you have learned about have made you a better coach?
I would say the biggest thing that pops out to me in that is seeing how people operate from different situations and understanding that type of person or that how that person operates, where their thoughts may or may not be going. And I think after being with you and meeting with you for so long, I've gotten pretty accurate on that. That would be the one thing I would take out of it in a coach and a player's way. So one thing I didn't love about my college experience was I was trying to get on the same page as my coach. And for some reason, we couldn't get there. It just wasn't working out. I was trying. I know he was trying. I respect him for trying. But whatever the communication, what he was looking for wasn't clicking for me in my head. It was hindering me, as a player. It was not allowing me my playing time that I wanted. And I wanted to figure it out, but it was getting tough. And it was for me, it was sitting there going like, what? He's the coach. He's supposed to know how to coach me. And this is bothering me. I can't figure him out as a coach either. So it turned into, well, we're going to sit him. We'll just leave him out if he's not getting it. It's not going to work. And it's just like, I wish I had someone coach me. And I'm not saying he didn't coach me. I think I was at fault for not figuring it out quick enough or being able to understand and read it too. And, me and you even had those conversations. But as a coach, now that I've gone through that and I've seen that, I think I notice myself being much more attuned to the conversations I'm having and why and how I'm asking my players to play. And if it's not clicking for them and I see that it's not clicking for them, for me, it's not you're going to sit until it clicks. Like, you're just not going to play hockey until you do it right. For me, it's okay, what makes you love the game? This is why I'm asking you to do this. I'm giving you a reason, and it usually leads to the reasons or the opportunities as to why you love the game. So if you do this consistently and you do it right and you do it well with the things that we're asking you to do, the opportunities and the positions that you love to be in and why you tell me you play the game should present themselves more often than not if you're able to add this skill to your toolbox, or you're able to make this pass consistently here and there every time. If they're not getting our system, for me, it's much more, let's sit down, talk this out, communicate it. And I need to learn what makes Hans Skolstad tick. I need to learn what makes him understand. I need to learn the vocabulary that makes him really get the game of hockey. For me, I want them to be the same sponge that I am. Yeah, I'm watching hockey all the time. I'm learning how to play, how to coach the game. I'm learning how to watch the game. I'm learning how to see the game, and I feel like I've gotten a pretty good hand on it. But I want my players to have that same drive as me, so they're always thinking the game as well. Is that realistic? Not necessarily, but I think it can be, especially in pro hockey with the guys. They're still playing the game after college. They love it, but that has to come from me. I can be a hard ass, but I can't be the consistent hard ass that doesn't get anything out of them, that makes them feel like they're not getting any better, or they're not learning something. I have to have a plan, a purpose, and a reason that I'm giving them a system, that I'm giving them an offensive zone structure, because it's going to lead for 2 more goals for them or all that. And for me, all of that piles up to who I have in the locker room, how their mind works, how their mind operates, what makes them go. And I think, honestly, from being with you for almost 10 years, 11 years, I think I've got.
Well, yeah, because 2011 is when Jack's accident happened, and that's when we first met each other. So one last question. What would you tell coaches or athletes who are a bit nervous to introduce mental fitness training for themselves or their program?
I just think it's one of those things. It's the world of sports now is, how can you get that 1 or 2% better? Where can I find that little piece of knowledge that makes me better than you, that makes me have that 1 second, that 2 second, that extra open space? And it's become a lot of physical attributes. People don't realize how much that separation can be, or how much greater that separation can be if they work on their mind.
Would you say if you feel like some coaches are often scared that it's going to turn them soft? Do you think that that's likely? Do you think that happened for you?
Yeah, I think I worry about that sometimes, about knowing I may have to lay the hammer down soon, or not doing it at that moment that I feel like I wanted to, waiting it out and contesting it. It's the response you get from your team is much greater. Like, I have a example, if you don't mind me sharing it, but this year when my head coach lost his brother, so I got the head job for 3 weeks. So I was the head guy, and there was one game we didn't play our best, and we ended up winning the game. So there's like a warning, right? I'm not mad at you. We won the game. We could have been better. Okay. The next night, or after one period, we're down 4-1, and I really give them the opportunity. Like, should I have walked in there and probably given it to them? Yeah, I probably should have, but I'm their assistant coach. I'm not their head coach. I need to time this out the right way, and I need it to mean something when I do it. And I attribute that to you, because I still needed to get my message across of how they needed to play, not it's not good enough. I needed to get my message across of, this is what we need to do to be successful, not it's not good enough. You need to work harder. I could see that they were working hard. It wasn't clicking for them. So I had some things to fix, right? So that third period, they go out there and they score 4 goals in the third period and win the game 5-4. The next night, 2 periods go by and they're just not playing well at all. It's 2-0 hockey game. We're not playing well. I've given my opportunity for them to fix it, and it hasn't correlated. So now I walk in there before the third period and I lose it on them. Just tell them it ain't enough. I don't need them. If they don't want to do it right, I'll find guys that will. This is pro hockey. It's time to start acting like one, all this stuff. But the feedback that I got from them too, once our head coach came back, was the way you did that was so good because I thought you were going to come in 3 or 4 periods before that and really let us have it. Had you have really let us have it, then I don't think I would have taken you nearly as seriously because you're our assistant coach. You still had a few things and a couple rungs on the totem pole to earn for respect before that really happened. But the timing and everything that you did do it on was perfect. And it made total sense because you gave us our opportunity. You told us what we needed to do to fix it. And when we didn't do it and you came down on it, it was crystal clear. And we knew exactly why and what was going on because of it.
So basically, what you're saying is you figured out how to be more thoughtful, strategic, and knowing when to focus on the right things at the right time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Would you tell people that are nervous they should just work through the fear and give it a shot?
Absolutely. Dive right in. Dive right in. There's things that come out of it that you don't even expect to happen. There's conversations we've had that I'm walking in and I'm ready to talk to you, and the conversation turns to a complete 180 because you find something out in your head that happened a couple years back, or you realize a reason you're reacting to something, and you get deep, but you figure it out and you walk out of there feeling better. And like I said, you realize your relationships get better, your communication gets better, your life gets clearer. You're better at sifting through a lot of bullshit. And that is, I think, probably one of the hardest things to do in today's world.
Did you ever feel like I was giving you an out to not take responsibility for your own decisions?
No, I felt like you were giving me a bit of a cheat code that nobody else knew about where I could handle my own decisions.
Do you feel like what happened during that time, if anything, is I pushed you to take more responsibility for yourself?
Absolutely. A byproduct of going is becoming a better human being. It's just natural.
Yeah. So you don't feel like working on it leads people either in your team scenario or your individual scenario that it was about, how you feel, and it's okay if you're not meeting your standards.
It's interesting to explain, but I would tell you after 3 months of lessons, right? That's kind of like where you realize, I realized I was able to see a big difference in my life and big difference in like the way things were going, even like kind of the compliments my parents were giving me about the way I was doing things or how I was operating. It was noticeable to them. And then they even complimented me on, we're not really worried about you anymore. Like we know you're okay. We can see you're on this path that you want to be on. You've always wanted to be on it. And it's like I said, it's not crazy to realize after you keep going. It's just you become a better human being is a simple byproduct of going there and understanding and testing yourself, getting outside of your comfort zone in your mind, and then realizing you're better at it. You're smarter.
Do you feel like my style shattered stereotypes for both you individually and your team?
Absolutely. I mean, stereotypes are stereotypes, I think, for a reason. And we've had this conversation before too, where they become rounded out because of whatever it may be, consistent behaviors, right? And I just think you realize why stereotypes kind of become stereotypes. And like I said, when like you're going to you and you're helping write that playbook on the things you need to do for your mind and how it works, and you keep building towards it and doing all those things, it made that sense of relationship with yourself, with other people, all those things stronger. If being nervous and like the way you went about it, you didn't let, those things that were probably a crutch for me became a bit of a joke for you. And I was able to see that, after a couple of years, right? Where it's like, okay, he's ragging on me because he knows, yeah, I've probably gotten better at that, but he's keeping me in check too. Because if I
just like this week when I sent you the highlight video of the Bender skater.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Keeping me in check, although you're keeping it light and making a joke about it, because I now know, I've been to you too long enough. I now know that was a bit of a crutch for me, or that was something like, if I do let that creep back into my life, like I might run into those problems here and there again.
Yeah. And I bet your golf game is better too.
It is. My golf game's better. I picked my coverage with my wife. Like life is good. Life is good.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, the one thing that I have a regret about is your style has never improved.
No, it's always been immaculate.
But
Since day one.
impeccable, really?
Impeccable
Okay.
since day one.
Right. Okay. Now, you know
First
what?
time I walked into your office, you knew it. You're like, this guy.
You
knows
know what?
us.
You know
And
what?
after 10 years straight, it's just been getting better and better.
You know what? I'll leave a few distorted beliefs for you to hold on to. I'll let you tease yourself a little bit more.
That's fine.
If you had an unlimited budget, would you want me to do a keynote for your team?
Yep. Oh, if I had an unlimited budget, you'd be flying down once a month.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then my teammates would have the, and I know how you operate, but my teammates would have your phone number at your disposal if I had an unlimited budget.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Christian. Have a good game tonight. We'll see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Bye
Bye.
now.